Wow, 500 subs. Last time I did one of these was all the way back at 100. Jumping right in, Trails is a massive series, and as someone who's been playing the games on a weekly basis for the past 2.5+ years, there are tons of tiny details that have a little bit of a habit of slipping my mind from time to time. These are not those moments though. These are the parts of the games that stick out in my mind. But keep in mind, it's going to be full spoilers from nearly all officially translated games, so back out now if you haven't beaten everything except Trails in the Sky the Third. Without further ado, let's start with number 5, the advertisement Trails of Cold Steel 2.
Crossbell's future rests in our hands, so let's get moving.
Right.
Its place here is more bittersweet than not. As of this video, I haven't played either of the Crossbell games yet, but it's highly unlikely I'll be able to hear Lloyd and Risha in English again anytime soon. Seeing them, and the Geofront, I guess, rendered fully in 3D is fan service done excellently, even if the real majesty of it went over my head.
There are still many barriers left between us and our goals, but we can get over them, so long as we're together.
Number 4, Annalace's Confession, Trails in the Sky SC. I'd like it if you and me, Estelle, if we became something more. I still chuckle from time to time thinking about this. Shara, Agate, Estelle, everyone but Annalace is certainly picking up a type of vibe that starts with R, and it isn't rivalry. SC was definitely the point in the series where Estelle and Joshua started picking up a ton of romantic false leads, but this one was by far the funniest. Annalace teaching Estelle more 8 leaves 1 blade forms in their own little corner of the local would be pretty cool, you've got to admit. You gotta set your sights on what you want and reach out and take it, Annalace! Number 3, Olivier's introduction, Trails in the Sky. I only did what any person who loves beauty and peace would have done. However, if you insist, how about going out on a date with me for a day? Olivier's intro perfectly puts his personality on display, and the results are pretty hilarious. People have told me that at one point, Estelle and Joshua's roles as protagonist and deuteragonist, secondary protagonist, whatever, were switched. And if you told me the conversation he has with Shara and Joshua and Estelle, where he's asking them on a date, well, the first two anyways, was written before the switch and kept exactly the same, I'd believe it. If I'm being honest, I think what makes this most memorable to me is that while Olivier's interest in Joshua is played for laughs, his bisexuality is done totally serious. Pretty rare in the JRPGs I've played, anyways. Well, excuse me for not being sexy. And just what do you mean by saying I should take a few lessons from Josh? Number 2, Joshua's departure, Trails in the Sky. Just as the brightest light casts the darkest shadow, if you stayed with me, you'd find out just how disgusting my true nature is. Believe it or not, Trails in the Sky was actually the first game in the series I ever played, and it's also the first game in the series I ever finished. Events in between may have been a little wildly out of order, but after an entire game of expecting Estelle x Joshua to be endgame, seeing her being drugged and dixed by her almost brother turned almost boyfriend was something completely out of left field in the best way possible. Definitely the moment that made me glad I'd gotten into the series long after there were several releases so I could learn what happened next sooner rather than later. You had me from the first moment I met you. I've always loved you. Goodbye, Estelle. Number 1, The Reveal, Trails of Cold Steel.
It really was you all along.
But the most memorable moment in my time playing Trails games has to be Trails of Cold Steel's climax. I 100% called something sketchy with Crow, and learning I was right on the money was awesome.
I'm okay. No, a little dusty. It was a close one, though.
I'm getting traitor vibes from Crow right now. Yeah, I don't know. Crow's getting a little suspicious to me. Like his traitor flag is raising. But then Misty slash Vita reveals that she's really a witch, and my mind was just splattered all over the wall behind me. Seeing literal, legit witchcraft was pretty awesome. But then you've got Crow actually assassinating Blood and Iron. And at this point, I was like, he'd had one game, like he had all that buildup and he gets killed at the very end. Turns out that wasn't the case. But you've also got her just using her powers out in the open, and then Crow gets away with it all at the end. It's just, man, it's the big moment the whole game's building up to, and it paid off big time for me. Contrasted to FC's ending, you can really tell they put the power of the PS3, well, it was new at the time, but you can really tell that they put the power of the PS3 versus what they had available at FC to work, and it makes everything so much bigger and grander. So, yeah, there's really just a ton more going on. It makes it stick out in my mind that much more.
Well played, Armbrust.
Alrighty then, that's done. I know, scripted content from me, right? This was actually pretty fun, and I've got way more plans for JRPG videos that aren't strictly LPs in the works. Honestly though, I'm just glad to be able to celebrate 500 people who liked what I was doing enough to jump aboard. One last time, thank you all so much. Here's to the next 500, and I'll see you guys real soon.